Hey guys, so it's been a little while since I've uploaded a video, but I'm back to share with you guys my new vehicle. But before we get into that, what I want to do is I want to go through all of the vehicles that I test drove and I was interested in after I sold the Cybertruck. And I want to kind of go through each vehicle and go over my likes and dislikes. It's not going to be a long list. I want to just go over the main likes and the main dislikes for each vehicle, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what my thought process was. And then at the end of the video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you guys and show you guys my new vehicle. So before we get into the video, I want to talk about today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Magback. I've talked about Magback many times before in the past. In my personal opinion, this is the best charging phone mount for the Cybertruck. I absolutely love it. I think it's amazing. And I want to go ahead and show you guys some details on their website so that way you can kind of get an idea of exactly what they're offering. So as you can see, they have phone mounts for every Tesla that you can think of, right? The Model Y, Model 3, Model X, Model S, and the Cybertruck. They also offer the left-handed side mount for your screen or the right side, which is really cool. So technically you can have a phone mount for the driver and the passenger. You can charge your phones and you have them in a position to when you're driving, you're able to very easily look at your phone, which I think is nice. But the cool thing is it's MagSafe. So it's going to work for all MagSafe type of phones. And what I really like is the fact that it's a solid aluminum. So it reduces the heat, which is a huge thing in the OEM Cybertruck charger, that it overheats your phone and it takes forever to charge. And anybody that owns a Cybertruck totally understands where I'm coming from. And this Magback fully solves both of those problems. You're not going to have the overheating issue and you're not going to have slow charge. This is a 10-watt charger, and so it's going to charge your phone quickly. It's going to keep it cool. And like I said, it's in a perfect position for you while you're driving. So once again, thank you, Magback. I appreciate you guys sponsoring this video. And I highly, highly encourage anybody who owns a Cybertruck to go ahead and get one from themselves. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is leave a link in the description below for anybody that's interested in the Magback Cybertruck phone mount, and then you can get yours for yourself. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the first vehicle. So the first vehicle that I went to go see was a 2025 GMC Hummer. GMC has two variants for the Hummer. They have a SUV version. They also have a truck version. I test drove the SUV version, but I also looked at the truck version. And so let me kind of go over the things that I liked about the Hummer as well as the things I didn't like about them. So first thing with the Hummer that I noticed right away was there's plenty of space, a lot of room inside the vehicle. That was very important to me because I do a lot of road trips with my family, and my kids want a lot of room. They have bags, they have their devices, they have a bunch of stuff with them. And so comfort and space was a big thing for me. And so the Hummer definitely checked those boxes. Another thing that I really liked about the Hummer was the frunk size. I loved how large it was. I loved how there was an outlet in the frunk. So overall, just the frunk was a big upgrade for me in regards to comparing it to a Cybertruck. The Cybertruck, the frunk is a lot wider than the Hummer, but I really liked the depth of the Hummer's frunk, and the outlet was just a big plus in my personal opinion. Another thing that I know you guys probably know already, something that I complained a lot about the Cybertruck, and it's something probably very minor for a lot of people, but for me, it just really bothered me from day one until the day I sold the Cybertruck, and that was the rearview mirror. Never understood why Tesla didn't put a camera as your rearview mirror as opposed to that little glass mirror that they put in there. Never made a lot of sense to me. Didn't understand that. And so when I went into the Hummer and I noticed that right away, it was very, very nice to see. And I was really happy to see that they put that in the Hummer. Another thing that I really liked about the Hummer was the panels that you're able to remove on the roof. I really liked that. I thought that was a cool feature, something that I can see myself using on a hot summer night. And I just think it's pretty cool. I think that was something that was really different from all the other vehicles that I looked at, especially the Cybertruck. It's something totally new, something cool. Another thing that I really, really liked about the Hummer was the fact that it was off-road capable. And from day one, it already had the big off-road tires, the all-terrain tires. It had some off-road modes. It has the air suspension. So you're able to lift it and get into extract mode, which is very beneficial. As I learned with the Cybertruck, for getting out of some obstacles. So overall, I really liked that it was off-road capable from day one. And then probably the last thing that I really liked about the Hummer was the fact that it's a big vehicle. I love the fact that when I was sitting inside of it, I felt like I was in a truck, I was in a big vehicle. And for someone like myself who just absolutely loves trucks, I like that feel of a truck. You know, the Cybertruck, as great as it is as a truck, when you're driving it, you don't really feel like you're in a truck. You kind of feel like you're more in a big sedan. It really reminded me of like a S-Class Mercedes. And that's not a bad thing, but I like to feel like I'm in a truck. And so I felt like the Hummer really checked that box as far as sitting in it and just feeling like I'm in a big vehicle. And so I really, really enjoyed that. Now let's go over some of the dislikes that I had about the Hummer. The first thing that I would say is probably the fact that if I was to buy a Hummer, I felt like the Hummer truck, the bed was too small for me and for my likings and for what I would want it to use it for. It was something that I was really disappointed about and was hoping that it was going to be bigger, but it is what it is. Another thing that I didn't like about the Hummer was the fact that Super Cruise was kind of janky. It was difficult to engage. It disengaged itself as well while I was doing my test drive. So Super Cruise is definitely nowhere near FSD. It really felt like it was autopilot, but 5 years ago. So that's not great. When it did work, it worked well, I felt like, but it just was kind of clunky to get it enabled. So that was a dislike. All right, now the next vehicle that I went to go see was a 2025 Rivian R1T. And so I want to go over the likes for that vehicle and the dislikes as well. So the first like that I had for the Rivian was the fact that it was fully off-road capable. You can really spec it out to have a bunch of different driving modes, ton of off-road driving modes. You can get the all-terrain tires, has the air suspension. Rivian really kind of pushes the adventure aspect of their vehicles, which I can appreciate. And so for any off-roading that I would do, the Rivian was right out the gate, day one, would be ready to do those type of adventures. So I really, really like that, and I can appreciate that. Second thing that I liked and I thought was pretty cool was the gear tunnel. Not only is it cool from just a utility standpoint, being able to put some gear in there and not having to worry about it getting wet or damaged, and it's locked and secure, but I really like the fact that they had access in the back seat to the gear tunnel. So if you watched my video and you saw Sherwin was pointing out that you can put ice chests back there and you're able to access it through the second row. And I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was really interesting. And then kind of in tandem with that, one thing that I liked about the Rivian was the fact that I felt like the interior was really thought out. There was a lot of little things that they have in there that I don't understand why other manufacturers don't do the same. The fact that you can get a speaker that's kind of docked into the interior of the vehicle, like I mentioned, with the gear tunnel and access to it. It had USB ports on the rear of both the driver and passenger seats for your backseat passengers, which I think is pretty cool. Obviously, if you have children, you can really appreciate that because now they're able to charge their devices. And it's kind of at a level where if they're holding their phones or a gaming device, it has that direct connection just kind of right there. So it's really, really convenient. There was a lot of things like that in the Rivian that I really appreciated. So now in regards to the dislikes, right off the bat, the bed of the Rivian was just way too small for me. So it's kind of similar to the Hummer truck. The Hummer truck's bed is bigger than the Rivian R1T, but for me and my work use, I feel like both are too small and aren't really giving me what I would need for work. So at that point, I'd probably just elect and get the SUV version of the Rivian, so the R1S. And unlike the Hummer, the R1S at least has that third row, so that would be a positive. But for the R1T, the bed was just way too small, and it's something that I wouldn't be very happy with if I was to purchase it. And then also, I just feel like the truck itself is too small for me. I'm not a huge guy, but I am 6'2", 200 plus pounds. And so I'm not extremely small. I'm not extremely big, but I'm not small. And I feel like the Rivian, just for me, it's too small for me. I'm used to big trucks. You know, I had a Ram 3500 long bed prior to the Cybertruck. The Cybertruck was a decent size. You know, I just got done talking about the Hummer and this and me liking that size. And so the Rivian was just way too small for me. So that was a big negative in my personal opinion as well. All right, so now I'm going to kind of just group the Silverado and the Sierra EV trucks together because they're very, very similar. There's some things that are different about them, but for the most part, they're pretty much the same vehicle. So one thing I'll say is that both the Silverado and the Sierra, the interiors are almost identical. There's plenty of space. It's very comfortable. I really enjoyed my drive with it. It drove very similar to the Cybertruck as far as feeling like you were in a big luxury sedan. It really gave you that plush, just kind of comfort, that air suspension. You don't feel any bumps. It just really was a smooth ride. Another thing that I really, really, really liked about both the Sierra and the Silverado was the fact that it has that midgate. And I can really see myself utilizing that midgate, whether it's on camping trips or doing some stuff at work. If I have a longer pallet or a longer item that I need to put in the back of the truck, having the ability to remove that midgate and gaining some extra length. I mean, I think it's like almost 11 feet long from the tailgate being down all the way to the front seats. I don't think that I need that much room in the bed of my truck, but hey, if it's going to give me the ability to have that much space, then I will take it. I think that was a really cool idea on Chevy and GMC, and I think that that was a really big plus. Another thing that I really liked about both those trucks was the fact that they had plenty of outlets. They had plenty of AC outlets. They had 240-volt outlet. They had outlets inside. They had outlets in the bed of the truck. They had outlets in the front. So plenty of outlets. You're able to power all of your devices, power anything that you need. For me, when I go camping, I have my ice cold fridge. And so I want to be able to keep that powered, keep my items cool and fresh on any camping trips. I have a lot of gear, so cameras and drones and things like that. I'm able to plug all of them in and really get everything charged. And so I loved all the outlets. Another thing that I really enjoyed about both trucks that I wasn't expecting, and I wasn't even thinking that I would like something like this as much as I did, and that was a heads-up display. I've never had a heads-up display in any vehicle that I've ever owned, but the fact that it had it and I was able to use it and kind of see it firsthand, I could see how it's useful. It keeps your eyes on the road, keeps you focused on what's ahead of you, and I think that's a really great safety feature. But it's also giving you some of that information that you would want, right? So overall, I really like the fact that it had the heads-up display. And then lastly, as far as likes, the range was crazy in both of the trucks. I mean, you're talking about 450 plus miles on both of them. That is just absolutely insane. Something that I was super excited about. I can really see how that's going to come in handy if I was to buy one with camping trips, towing, all that stuff. I mean, more range, the better, right? So that was really, really cool. And I was really happy to see that type of range on a truck or SUV. So now let's go over the dislikes for both of these trucks. So I guess a really big dislike for me would be lack of off-road capabilities from day one. Um, I noted in my video that both of the trucks come with 22-inch wheels. That's not the biggest issue. The bigger issue is the tires. They're street tires. That would just mean that I would have to go buy not only new tires, but I would have to get new wheels as well. And so I would have to reconfigure the whole setup for the wheels. And it's not just, day one, take it out. I can go off-roading. I can do things. It's already ready for me. Another thing is the off-road modes. There wasn't a lot of information. There wasn't a lot of menus or tinkering that I can do for the truck for off-roading. And so that was a little disappointing. I wish they would have a little bit more offerings for off-roading. I know that they have their Trail Boss coming out soon. And so I know they're going to kind of push people that way if you're looking for off-road capabilities. But for me today, what's available from GM as far as an EV truck, there's not a lot of off-road capabilities with these trucks. So that was a huge miss in my personal opinion, and I was kind of let down. when it comes to that. And then lastly, something that's really small, but it's hard for me to kind of get over is the wind deflectors that are on the rear or in the middle of the vehicle, I guess you could say, where the cab and the bed meet. Now, the GMC Sierra, it's not as aggressive, and so I kind of lean towards the Sierra, but I like the face and the front of the Silverado more, but the side profile view, because of that wind deflector, I don't know. It's something that when I look at it, it kind of just bothers me. Maybe for others, it's not going to be a big deal, but for me, I just didn't really like that too much. I understand the efficiency; it helps with wind drag and efficiency for the truck, and so I can appreciate that. But if I'm going to be honest, when I'm looking at the profile of both trucks, it just was one of those things where I wish it didn't have those. All right, and then lastly, let's get into the Cybertruck because obviously Cybertruck is in play here. But let me kind of go over some of the key points as to why I would go back to the Cybertruck. Number one thing, FSD. In driving all these other trucks, nothing compares to FSD. The fact that you're able to sit in your driveway, put in an address, hit a button, and it takes you straight there is mind blowing. Now, my experience with FSD and my Cybertruck wasn't perfect. I documented it a lot in a lot of my videos how, for whatever reason, it kept veering off to the left lane. It would hug that left lane. It would go over the lines into the left lane, and it could get scary. Obviously, because I knew it would do that at times, I would pay extra attention. I recalibrated the cameras many times. I talked to service about it, and it just kept doing it to me. So I don't know what the deal was with my Cybertruck. Obviously, my Cybertruck had a bunch of different issues, hence why I don't have it anymore. But that was one thing with FSD for me. But yeah, I think FSD is amazing. It's way ahead of its time. There's nothing else that compares to it. So number one and number one thing that would take me back to a Cybertruck would be FSD. Number two would be steer-by-wire. It really feels like you're driving a vehicle in a video game. You're not doing the hand over hand turning. It's really just very subtle movements. Makes driving fun. The instant torque and then the steer by wire are the perfect marriage and is something that I have missed since I sold my Cybertruck. And so that would be another thing that would take me back to a Cybertruck. Number three, for the Cybertruck is space. There's plenty of space in the Cybertruck. There's a lot of room for gear. There's a lot of room for the kids underneath the rear seat, underneath the front seats, in between the front seats. There's room everywhere. And so for me and road tripping, the Cybertruck was a great vehicle for that. And so that would be my third like. Kind of going into that, my next like would be the tonneau. The fact that you're able to put gear back there, close the tonneau. You knew it was going to be safe back there. I've never heard of anybody breaking into a tonneau and being able to take anybody's stuff out of the Cybertruck. So you always feel confident that you could leave your luggage on those road trips, or you could leave some type of gear or items back there, and you know it's going to be safe. Overall, the tonneau was a huge plus for me with the Cybertruck. And then my last like that I have in this video is the fact that the Cybertruck had plenty of off-road capabilities. I know it took a few months for Tesla to release all of that to the early adopters, but once they did, I mean, that opened up all types of capabilities for the Cybertruck. I mean, there's plenty of menus, plenty of settings. You can really tackle any obstacle with the Cybertruck. Overall, I really like the off-road capabilities of the Cybertruck. Okay, now let's get into the dislikes. So this one's really tough for me because I know that my Cybertruck had a lot of issues that maybe others haven't had or didn't have. But the reality is I had 3 inverter issues that disabled my motors 3 times. There was a potential 4th at the end. For some weird reason, the prompt went away. So I don't know really what happened there. But nonetheless, you guys know I had a lot of inverter issues, motors being disabled. I got stranded on a camping trip. And so the tough part is, I'm not going to lie, I kind of have a little bit of like a PTSD when it comes to the Cybertruck. And that was what ultimately made me get rid of it. That I didn't feel like it was reliable anymore for me. And obviously, that was my Cybertruck. Not saying every Cybertruck. So, with that being said, and with me not having a Cybertruck for a little bit of time now, I had a lot of comments. I had a lot of people coming to me and telling me that they have this VIN, haven't had any issues, they've driven this many miles. And I understand that. I appreciate people reaching out to me and kind of giving me their story and their experience. And I appreciate that. But at the same time, I have good friends of mine that own Cybertrucks that just took delivery of Cybertrucks that have already had this issue. I mean, I'm talking about 40,000 plus VIN numbers who have told me that their inverters have gone out on them. I have friends who have had their Cybertrucks as early as I did and have had inverter issues recently. And they've had these issues in the past, had them fixed, went months with no issues, and now it's reoccurring. So it kind of just takes me back to going, can I rely on the Cybertruck to do the things that I want it to do? I want to go and do some overlanding. I want to go do some camping and going in remote places. I'm not 100% sure that the Cybertruck could do that for me. So that was really, really tough for me. And that was weighing on me when I was making this decision. So with that being said, I think it's time for me to show you guys what I bought. What's my next vehicle? So let's go check it out.